Hello, I'm Sue Schwartz, Planning Director for the City of Greensboro. From December 7th through the 11th, we hosted a Community Planning Assistance Team. This program is from the American Institute of Certified Planners, the Professional Institute of the American Planning Association. There were 5 volunteers that came from across the country to work with us on a community discussion around the Gateway University Research Park. They had several community meetings, stakeholder discussions, and one-on-one interviews. However, the day that they were supposed to do their community presentation, we had our first snowstorm. So they agreed before they left town to complete this video for you to see their recommendations, and even at the end, there's a link that you can provide us feedback. We hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, the information is during the tape, and we look forward to hearing from you soon.
I'm Jeff Table from Houston, Texas, and I'm the Director of Community and Environmental Planning at the Houston-Galveston Area Council.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Bears, President of Place Consulting. We're an urban planning and economic development firm based in Chicago.
Hi, my name is Travis Pendleton. I'm from Kansas City, and I am a city planner with the Virio Consulting Firm.
Hi, my name is Joanne Shelley. I'm an urban designer with the City of Dublin, which is a suburb of Columbus, Ohio.
Our project is called A Plan for Planning for the East Gateway Corridor. Our job is to make the plan that the city is about to undertake for this area as inclusive of the needs of all the residents in this area, make it as effective plan as it can be for helping guiding future growth and other improvements. The Community Planning Assistance Team is a program of the American Institute of Certified Planners that is designed to match up volunteers with local communities to do more successful planning by giving them a set of fresh eyes, specialized skills, and good ideas from other places. Here are the members of our team. You're going to get to hear from them in just a few minutes, but I wanted to let you know that we were picked to make sure this project had strong professional skills in public engagement, community design, and economic development on the team. Over the past 5 days, my colleagues and I have been meeting with a lot of different people to hear what they have to say about this area today and what it could be like tomorrow. Here's a list of the groups we have talked with, but I feel the most important conversation we had was with the residents of the area who participated in a community planning workshop.
We went through a 5-day focused planning process that was all about learning from the community. During the first 3 days, we had stakeholder interviews. We met with residents and students. And in the last 2 days of the planning process, we developed a plan that would help explain what could happen next, and then determined a few strategies for sharing the outcomes of that plan. Our stakeholder meetings, we met with 13 different groups of stakeholders, but we asked each of them a series of questions. 3 of them were in common among all the groups. The first was, what does Innovation Village and campus mean to you? We got a variety of different responses. But I think the key there is that people were concerned that Innovation Village and campus might leave them out or seem exclusive. At the same time, others thought that Innovation Campus and Village meant technology, research and development, and establishing an area where young ideas are generated. Another question that we asked the stakeholders was, if you had to look at the community today, what one word or phrase would you use? We got mixed responses there also, some positive and some negative, but the most positive ones had to do with the promise, the potential growth, and the opportunity available in the community today. In the future, the word or phrase that people would like to be able to use, if you were thinking about the community 10 years in advance, they thought connected, a well-connected community, would be the words that they would use to describe the area. When it came to thinking about the future and what types of improvements or changes residents and students wanted, we heard a lot about transportation options, a lot about restaurants and the need for them, services, shopping, activities for youth, and more. As the community grows and changes over time, maybe it's not referred to as an innovation village or campus. Maybe it has a brand new name. And so at the public meeting, we learned about a lot of the options for naming. Some of those had to do with the historic figures that have affected the community, such as Jenny Barber. Others mentioned the idea that it's a gateway into the town. And so maybe if it's a gateway into the city, then we're talking about the community being called a gateway village or the gateway center. Some thought it should be called Ivy Heights, Dudley Heights, and others. Regardless, as we came to since our team is from outside of the area, we had an opportunity to meet with many people for the first time. When we talked with them, we learned that they were doing a lot of things in common, or things that were compatible with one another. And so we thought, as the area changes and it begins to grow, maybe its promise is that everyone's going to get together and grow. And if they're doing that, there are going to be a lot of people that participate in that. Here are a few examples of who might be living in this community. First, there might be Mrs. Harris. She's a grandparent. She lives in the neighborhood and has been doing so for 40 years. She's a retired city worker. She enjoys cooking and trying new foods, especially Greek and Indian dishes. She loves spending time with her 15-year-old grandson and his mentor, Yoshi. She hopes her grandson will one day be a business owner. Another community member might be Caroline. She's a teacher. She lives in the neighborhood and has been doing so for 20 years. She drops her son and daughter off at daycare in the morning before going to work, and her husband, Emmett, picks them up each morning. On the weekend, she and her family enjoy the activities happening at the YMCA and walking along the neighborhood sidewalks and trails near campus. Another community member might be Michael and Priya. They're new to the neighborhood. They recently moved into a home near Gateway University Research Park, and Priya spends a lot of time working at the joint school on her research projects. When she can, she takes a break and enjoys the food truck festival and takes the Lime Bike to eat at a nearby restaurant. Priya always remembers to tell her husband to pick up the dry cleaning and to buy healthy snacks for their kids.
So, to provide more understanding of how a community develops, we've divided the opportunities that we're sharing with you into phases. Things that are quick wins, midterm opportunities, and then development that take longer, opportunities that take longer to develop. To begin with, we really think it's important to energize the gateway, signs, flags, things that allow people to understand where they are and the sense of place. We want to enliven the crosswalks for safety awareness. This will give Mrs. Harris and her grandson a more secure path as they visit the campus and his mentor. We want to increase the frequency of community updates for public services such as the police, the streets, bike paths, and transportation. We want to reduce the visual impact of the abandoned properties, and we want to implement Food Truck Fridays to bring food access and variety to the neighborhood. In the midterm, we suggest expanding the Lime Bikes so community members like Priya can ride between destinations. We suggest developing infill housing and creating cultural paths and intermediate places for gathering, which include seating, Wi-Fi, perhaps historic markers, and lighting for safety. We want to create restaurant clusters and attract commercial services. In the long term, we suggest that we expand opportunities for commercial development along the corridor so that Caroline can meet her husband and her kids at a restaurant for game night. We also suggest expanding the variety of housing and expand transit opportunities, which will be supported by the increased residential and community population. In total, this should result in a well-connected and vibrant corridor.
So as you've heard us talk about the plan so far, we've talked about a phased approach and about some of the quick wins, the midterm, and the long-range opportunities that exist. I'm going to take a couple of minutes and talk specifically about business improvements and housing investments that can be made in the area. So when we're thinking about our three folks, or our three different community members, Mrs. Harris, Caroline, her husband Emmett, their two kids, and Priya and Michael, we want to make sure that they've got the kinds of businesses that will help create the community that they look to be a part of. So in terms of restaurants and other kinds of commercial activity centers, we're talking about fast casual restaurants, places that are healthy. We're also looking at developing sit-down restaurants, the place where Caroline and her family can go and have that game night experience. We also want to bring in healthcare services, so pharmacy, urgent care, minute clinic, those kinds of services. And then we very clearly heard that the community would like to have a grocery store, a full-service grocery store. In order to bring those kinds of amenities and services into the neighborhood, we'll need to look at expanding the population of folks who live there so that those businesses can be successful. Before we do that, we want to also make sure that the neighborhood is livable and safe for those who are currently there. So looking at opportunities to create programs or initiatives that are focused on addressing abandoned houses, deterioration in the housing market, and maybe making home repairs for senior citizens easier, supporting that with different kinds of programs. For folks that might want to live in the neighborhood, we'll be looking at opportunities to develop new housing, multifamily housing perhaps, with larger bedroom sizes to accommodate larger families, housing that meets the needs of the international students, and senior housing, so that folks who've been in the neighborhood for 40 years, like Mrs. Harris, can continue to age in place with supportive services. Moving forward, we see this phased approach creating momentum and building community over time. We specifically want to focus on minority entrepreneurship and connect people in the community with opportunities to own businesses and local folks to get those local jobs, jobs that would be created in the community. We know that what's going to be most important throughout this plan is including and encouraging collaboration and cooperation amongst all the folks who have a stake in the future of this corridor. And so looking at the key stakeholders, those folks who have made an investment with their lives, choosing to live in the neighborhood, choosing to work in the neighborhood, choosing to invest in the neighborhood, and looking at a future that involves all those folks coming together and being ambassadors for the future of what this corridor can be.
Now, there are a few more things that we would like to hear from you. First of all, what should we call this place? If you go to the link below, you can vote for a name for this area based on the suggestions you saw that were made by residents. You'll also find a space to share any comments that you may have on this presentation or on the planning process in general. And finally, you can let us know if there are topics that are of special interest to you as the planning process moves forward. There's also a phone number you can call at the City of Greensboro Planning Department if you have any questions or would like more information about this plan. We've had a great time in Greensboro. I hope you're as excited about the future of this area as we are, and that our presentation will spark your interest in getting involved in the planning process. So let's get together and grow.